Hi guys, my name is Isa. Welcome to my channel. Today I want to talk to you about not being able to move on. Let's get started. I have this tendency of waiting for people to come back, and the layout is pretty much the same every single time. I start talking with someone, I start liking them, really liking them. We're having a great time, then they stop talking to me. And after they stop talking to me, I spend weeks waiting for them to come back with an apology. I think this has happened maybe 3-4 times already, and not a single time has the guy come back with an apology. They haven't even come back. And although that is painful for that version of myself that spent time waiting for them, it is truly a blessing to not have them back into my life. I'll be completely honest, this is something that I'm currently going through right now, and I really hope the guys not watching this video. If they are, make sure to like and comment and subscribe. I am going through this specifically right now, which is why I can resonate so much with what I'm sharing. And I feel like now I can understand pretty clearly what is happening inside of me and why I'm just having a hard time moving on from people. Because as I said, it's not the first time, and I think not being aware of it, it's what's keeping me in this loop. So last week episode, I talked about waiting for someone to come back, but instead of chasing a person, we're actually chasing that excitement and anticipation we felt when we were with this person. So we think that once this person is back into our lives, we'll be able to feel that excitement again. This video is going to be a little bit different because I actually feel like a part of me, and if you resonate, I guess also a part of you, is waiting for someone to come back just so you can avoid accepting the reality of things. And it is crazy how those two things can coexist. Me waiting for someone to come back because I want something from them, and the other one, me wanting someone to come back because I'm trying to avoid something internally. At the end of the day, human emotions are very fluid and very layered, and we can feel a mix of things over one specific thing, or multiple things can make us feel a certain way. The first thing that I started reflecting over not being able to move on, or why I keep waiting for this person to come back, was how I'm just repeatedly telling myself they're gonna come back. And the truth is, every single day that I decide to tell myself this person is gonna come back is actually another day where this person is choosing to not be with me. And it's like I'm telling myself, no, they're gonna come back. Just because I don't want to accept that this person is deliberately choosing not to be in my life. And I don't blame myself for not wanting to process that. Why would I want to process someone that I liked and someone that I would hope would stay in my life decided to leave and is choosing daily to not be in my life? Because they know how to reach out. They know my phone number, they know my Instagram handle, they know where I live, they know where I work. Like, this person has so much information on me, and they could reach out online or in person if they really wanted to, and they're just choosing not to. I'm truly seeing this person like in a positive light, thinking, oh no, he's gonna come back and apologize. He's gonna become enough self-aware to understand what's happening or realize that we do belong together. When in reality, I'm giving him too much credit. Like, this person is not thinking all of that. This person is deliberately choosing not to be with me, not to talk to me, not to apologize, not to ask me if we can start something again. And I think that's one of the reasons why we would rather believe someone is coming back instead of accepting that they have left. Because the main reason why it hurts that this person left is because we wanted something with this person. So accepting that it is over means that we have to realize that all of that came to an end. And there's a lot of grief that comes with that. Grieving the version of ourselves that we discovered when we met this person. Grieving that future that we talked about. Grieving those promises that will never come to pass because we're no longer together. And I think that grief is so painful that our mind is just not allowing us to fully experience it. And just to give you an insight over how I truly feel, I feel so disappointed. Like, I truly feel so disappointed. I really like this guy. I just hated that he made me like him, because he could have just not talked to me. I feel like that would have been easier. Obviously, he could have just not talked to me, but he did, and I liked him, and I got really excited. And it just sucks because I don't really like that many people. I don't like people that much, and I don't think of a future with many people. So the fact that I liked him and that I thought of something with him, it counts for something for me, at least. It means something for me. So it just sucks that it doesn't mean anything for the other person and they just left. And the problem of waiting for someone who has left is that we are stuck in this future possibility, this future reality that is just not happening. Not only because it's the future, but also because we don't really have any indication of it. And we would rather live in that possibility than in our actual present life. And the problem with that is that you can't really do much if you only live in the future. Because when you live in the future and when you're constantly thinking of all the things that can happen, it's like you're waiting for life to happen to you. But when you're focused on the present reality and you feel like you have a choice, like you have control over the now, you realize that you decide what happens in your life. You decide who you talk to, who you spend time with, where you go, instead of waiting for someone else to decide to talk to you. And this is the moment where I asked myself, if I move on, what am I leaving behind? You know, who am I leaving behind that I'm so scared of moving on without? And that's where the title of this video comes from, because I'm still in the restaurant. I've heard this phrase from TikTok. I never truly understood it. And then I reflected on this, realized that, I feel like I'm still at the restaurant. And I will talk a little bit about that in just a bit. But after doing like my whole journal entry and my whole reflection, my whole visualization, I searched on TikTok and I realized it's a Taylor Swift song. It's a really good song. I feel like it describes everything I feel to the T. It's so relatable. You can just tell she was truly going through a heartbreak. I'm always impressed at how artists are able to like encapsulate a feeling or a sensation or even a season of life after experiencing something hard. So you should definitely listen to the song. But let me explain if you don't like Taylor Swift or you haven't listened to the song or you just don't want to listen to it. I feel like there's a version of me that's still at the restaurant. Mentally, she's still in that moment where we both liked each other. So because mentally that's where she's at, the idea of moving on just doesn't make any sense. Why would she move on? Or why would I move on? Why would you move on? If you like each other, there's no reason for you to move on. You like this person and they like you back. And that's the thing. One moment, this person liked me. The next, not so much. They were no longer in my life. And that is the dissonance that I'm having a really hard time wrapping my head around. Because what do you mean you liked me, but then you left? Doesn't make sense. Make it make sense. And before we dive into my visualization of me still being in the restaurant, I want to talk a little bit about mentally being there in that moment where we both liked each other and deciding to wait for him. We basically think, oh, this person liked me. That is enough reason for me to wait for him. Because he liked me, but he left. That makes no sense. It makes more sense for him to like me and for him to come back because he liked me. When I was reflecting on that, my subconscious mind, or honestly, God, I think I got like a slap on the face, because it's like, he likes me and that's enough reason for me to wait for him, but that wasn't enough reason for him to stay. So why is it enough reason for me to stay? Liking me didn't stop him from walking away. And that's because ultimately liking someone isn't enough. You can like a lot of people, but you cannot meet everybody's standards. And what do I mean by that? A lot of people can like me and a lot of people may try to like pursue me, but not every single person that decides to pursue me or is attracted to me will be able to provide what I'm looking for, which is safety, commitment, emotional availability, emotional intelligence, consistency, direct communication. What is so good about having someone who likes you if they make you feel anxious because they're inconsistent? I would rather have someone who is both consistent and likes me than someone who just likes me and is not consistent. So reflecting on it, someone liking me shouldn't be enough for me to want to date them. So why is it enough for me to sit here and wait? Especially because it wasn't enough for him to stay. And yes, the idea of this person coming back is much more pleasing than the idea of, oh, he left and he'll never come back. But I want you to think on the idea of, what if he never left? That's what I want. You know, actually thinking about it, why would I want someone who decided to come back when I could have someone who just never left? I understand there's impermanence in life. Nothing lasts forever. Not relationships, not friendships. You know, even if you marry someone, one of them eventually dies and like their relationship ends. And a lot of people push this idea of detachment and letting go, and I love that idea, not because it's so cool to be unbothered and nonchalant, but because detachment is what allows you to be happy even if you don't have that specific thing. But even with the impermanence of things, I want someone who's so sure about me that they don't have to leave. They're so sure about me that even if they see something within them that they need to work on, instead of saying, oh, I'm actually not ready for a relationship, let me leave, they decide to work on it. They have the emotional awareness and intelligence and availability to self-reflect and do everything that they have to do in order to be that person for me. I want someone who stays even if it's inconvenient, because that is effort, that is love, being worth the inconvenience inconvenience. I had a friend who injured herself. She went to the ER. I went with her and I spent 13 hours in the ER with her. It wasn't an emergency really, but I was there. None of her other friends were there. Was it convenient for me? Of course not. I had things to do. I could simply go back home and just be at the comfort of my house. But my friend was worth that inconvenience because that is love. And I'm not here saying that I'm always inconvenient and that's just the price everyone has to pay to be with me. But I want someone who stays. I don't want someone who comes back. I want someone who stays. I want someone who looks at me and they immediately know I'm what they want and I'm who they want to put effort into and I'm who they want to be with. So the question shouldn't be, should I wait for him? But rather, what kind of person do I want? Because if you want someone who never leaves, that person leaving, it's already letting you know that that person is not for you. So that just tells me I shouldn't sit and wait for him because he's not the man that I want. The man that I want wouldn't do that. Okay, now we're gonna move into the whole visualization of still being at the restaurant. And I want you to bear with me in this section because obviously it is a very personal visualization. However, I do think it's relatable. And I don't know, some of you might think it's weird that I'm having this visualization. Others might think it's so healing that I'm doing this in my process. Take it if it resonates, don't take it if it doesn't. So I can visualize two versions of myself as if I'm divided into two people, okay? The version of myself that's still at the restaurant and then the version of myself that is ready to move on. The difference is the girl that's still in the restaurant, I can see her. I can see that she has her makeup done. She has a smile on her face. She has a cute outfit. She has her purse on her shoulder and she's happy to be in that restaurant. But then that version of myself that's ready to move on, I can't look at her. I don't know how she looks like because I'm like from her perspective. So that's just an indicator that I am ready to move on. You know, I've already made the decision to move on. There's just another part of myself that's not ready. But I think the majority of me is ready to move on. So I'm like walking into the restaurant and it's my perspective. It's my path. Let's say the girl that's still at the restaurant, she's on a date with this guy. And you can visualize the specific part however you want it because I think they'll give the same result. So for example, you have a date with a guy and you're waiting for him. Or you started the date with this guy, like he was at the restaurant with you and he told you, I need to go to the bathroom, I'll be right back. Or he said, I need to grab something from my car, I'll be right back. And he hasn't come back. Whether the date already started or you're like waiting for him to come for the date, you're there in the restaurant and you're sitting and you're thinking, he's coming. You know, either he's coming to see me or he's coming back. But it's been a few minutes, maybe 10, maybe 20, and he's just not coming back. I don't know if the restaurant is closing, but I do know that the restaurant will close by the end of the night. So the version of myself that's ready to move on walks into the restaurant and I sit next to her and I tell her, we need to leave. She's confused. That gorgeous girl who's waiting for that man is confused. Because remember, mentally, she's still at the point where we both liked each other. So it doesn't make sense for her to leave. She's at the point where the guy was telling her how excited he was for the date, or she's mentally experiencing when they were having the date before he left for the bathroom or the car, where they were just having a lot of fun, jokes were flowing, conversation was flowing, they were being flirty. All she knows is that she has great chemistry with this guy, she really liked him, and it just doesn't make sense for her to leave. So she goes like, what do you mean? Why would I leave? So then the version of me that's ready to move on would be like, yeah, we need to leave because he's not coming back. And then she tells me, what do you mean he's not coming or he's not coming back? He likes me. Why wouldn't he come? And that is us asking ourselves, what do you mean he left? We had those FaceTimes or those calls. We had those long conversations on text. We had this many dates. We kissed this many times. Like, this guy has expressed in words, in actions that he likes me. What do you mean he's gone? Just doesn't make sense. That's the dissonance that we cannot comprehend. He likes me, but he left. So then I tell her, I know, I felt it too. Because I genuinely thought he liked me. I genuinely felt it, guys. I'm not crazy. But it is clear to me that he's not here. It is clear to me that he's not coming back. And that version of myself that's still at the restaurant, that doesn't want to leave, she's confused. And she's asking, but that doesn't make sense. Like, can you explain? What do you mean he's not coming back? Like, what happened? Like, something must have happened. And I tell her, yeah, something did happen. I just don't know what happened. I don't know why he left. I don't know if he's coming back. I just know that he's not here. But then she says, I like him. I want to wait for him. What do we tell her? Something that we don't even tell ourselves because either we don't know or we don't want to admit it. We can wait for this person as long as you want, but that doesn't guarantee that he's going to come back. And I'm going to gut punch you right now because I gut punched myself when I realized this. Yes, we can wait for him, but he's not going to come back. But if he does come back, that just means that he was expecting you to be there at the restaurant waiting for him. He was expecting you to have your life on pause, to have your emotions on pause, not pursue anybody else, not pursue any other dynamic because you're waiting for him. And I don't know about you guys. I don't know which one is worse. A guy leaving me and never coming back, or him leaving and thinking he can come back whenever he wants to. Actually, just saying that, I already know which one is worse. Because what do you mean? You have the audacity to leave me and think, she's gonna be there waiting for me. You know, just because he's there thinking that I'm gonna be waiting for him makes me not want to wait for him because So after that whole conversation with those two versions of myself, which I know that exist within you, I asked myself, what does she need to hear for her to be ready to move on? What does that girl need to hear for her to be like, okay, let's go? Nothing. She just needs me to hold her hand in silence while she processes what's happening and just give her time, because on her own she'll say, okay, let's go. You have to realize, guys, it is hard to move on when you think and you feel like the story is still happening. If you genuinely think he will come back, it will be hard for you to move on because the story isn't over. Why would you move on mid-story? And the reason why it's better to just hold our hands and let ourselves process everything that's happening instead of having all the answers or answering all of my questions, it's because the problem is not the questions that you have. That is not what you need to focus on, because even if you get all the answers that you're looking for, you know, even if you're like, well, why did he leave? Oh, because he was scared. Well, why was he scared? Oh, because he has trauma. Why does he have trauma? Oh, because his parents didn't love him properly. Why did his parents didn't love him properly? Like, you can go on and on and on. But even if you get all of those answers, you still have to grieve the loss of the relationship. You have to grieve that loss of that version of yourself, of that version of himself that you really liked, of those feelings, of those promises. Those questions are just an attempt to not feel all of that pain. But let me tell you, even if you get all of those answers that you're looking for, you still have to come back to yourself, and you will still feel grief. You will still feel hurt. You will still feel confused. And knowing why he left or not knowing why he left, that doesn't really change anything. He still left. You still have to face the reality that he's not there. You still have to face the reality that you have to move on. And that's what I told myself. I really want to know why. I want to know what happened. But honestly, I don't really need to know what happened. We don't need to know what happened in order for us to move on. I've had many experiences in the past that ended and I didn't get any closure. I still don't understand what happened, but I still was able to move on. I was still able to experience new friendships and new relationships even after those unfinished dynamics. And in reality, even if they do answer all of those questions, I can either understand more or I could potentially be even more confused. The only thing that will make sense to your brain, which is still stuck in the idea of I like him and he likes me, is this person to stay in your life and never leave. You will never fully understand and comprehend and be okay with the fact that, okay, this person left. And I don't think the problem in itself is going through grief or hurt or pain. I think it's processing it alone, because just on that visualization of me still being in the restaurant, I truly feel like I needed someone to hold my hand and just give me time to process it. I really felt like me holding my hand really helped. I wasn't even looking for someone to take away my confusion or someone to take away my pain. I was looking for someone to hold my hand. So maybe we're so focused on answering questions, not because we're afraid of processing things, but because we're afraid of processing things alone. Because it's hard. It's hard when you don't have help. It's hard when you don't have anyone to open up with. It's hard when you don't have anyone to like validate your confusion or your hurt or your pain. It's hard when you don't have someone else to be confused with you. I just really appreciate the idea of me being with myself and being like, I don't know. It's just so comforting knowing that I'm not the only one who doesn't know. You don't need to know for you to move on. You don't need to know his intentions as to why he stayed or why he left in order for you to feel good about the connection. If you liked him and he liked you and it felt real, that's enough good reason for you to be happy with the connection you had. But that doesn't mean that you have to drag it and justify waiting and waiting and waiting for someone. You don't need to know if he's gonna come back or not for you to decide if you want to stay or leave. I mean, I don't want to be morbid or anything, but we're all gonna die someday. We don't know when we're gonna die. I don't know how many days I have left. You don't know how many days you have left. Why are we spending those days waiting for someone who doesn't even want to be in our lives? Waiting for someone to be like, should I be in their lives? Because when you're waiting for someone, you're not actively participating in your life. So if you're not willing to actively participate in your life, why would someone else want to participate in your life? You simply have to ask yourself, is this what you want? Do you want someone who leaves and comes back? Or simply, do you want someone who leaves? The answer is no. Okay, then you decide to move on. You decide to look at it from a different lens. I would rather you decide if you want to wait for him based on what you want instead of based on whatever he decides. What do you want? I don't really have any magic words as to how to not be confused about it or how to not be upset. I think realistically, those are emotions that we are bound to experience throughout our life, and we will experience that in relationships, in friendships, maybe at work. Our goal shouldn't be to never feel those emotions, to never be in those situations, but rather, how can I be with myself while I'm going through that? How can I make sure I am fully supported when I'm going through those experiences? Because we can't avoid those experiences. The only way that you can avoid that risk of being left is never starting something, never being with someone, because if you're never with someone, nobody can ever leave you. But then if you're never with someone, you can never experience all the beautiful things that both friendships and relationships have to offer. And I don't think it's fair that one person hurts us and then we decide to no longer participate in our lives, in the sense of, I don't want to try anything else just in case they hurt me. Putting yourself on the line, building connections, and staying genuine to yourself, it is worth the risk. You just have to get it right once. You just have to try it until you get it right. Obviously, in order for you to not just keep trying it, like, learn from your mistakes. And you just have to build that tolerance for ambiguity and not knowing, because you won't always know everything. You won't always get closure when things come to an end, and that's okay. You don't need to know. You truly don't need to know. Maybe it's better for you to not know. And even if it's better or worse for you to not know, ultimately you don't know, and I think that's enough reason for you to learn to be okay with it, because it is what it is. That will never change. There will be things that we won't know why they happened, and we can either look at that concept in itself of, we're not gonna know everything, and decide to be upset at it, and every time we think about it or every time we experience it, we become upset. Or we can just accept that, yeah, I'll have experiences where I'm so confused and I don't know what happened, and that's okay. So then next time you actually go through an experience like that, you're like, this is one of them. Okay, let's go. So if you're still at the restaurant, you just need to take a seat and take some time to process everything. I don't want to blame society, because I don't even think it's society. I think it's ourselves. We just push ourselves and rush ourselves into moving on when we're not ready to move on. And then we get upset at ourselves for not being able to move on. But it's like, we still think it's happening. That's why it's hard for us to move on. And I don't want to say it's society, because I've never had someone tell me you have to move on fast. Like, you have to let it go. I've never had anyone tell me. It's usually me telling myself, why am I still thinking about it? Why am I still upset about it? I have to move on. I have to move on. No, like, if you truly need weeks for you to move on, if you need weeks to process, or even months to process the idea that, okay, this already came to an end. This person is not coming back. Or even if this person comes back, do I really want someone who comes back? And we need to give ourselves time to just sit in confusion and sit in grief, because there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with being confused. There's nothing wrong with being upset. It's just uncomfortable. But we can do uncomfortable things, and we don't have to do it alone. You can be there for yourself, because this is those moments where you don't want to abandon yourself. As much as you want someone else to be there for you, this is a great opportunity for you to be there for yourself. Not only that, God is more than happy to hold your hand. God is close to those who are brokenhearted. So if you just got out of a breakup, let me tell you, God is right there, ready to meet you at the restaurant, ready to hold your hand, ready to tell you, I understand how you feel, and we don't need to know, but I'm here with you. And he's gonna hold your hand for as long as you need, and then he's gonna take you out for ice cream. The moment you leave that restaurant, he's gonna take you out for ice cream. Seriously, you're gonna find so much comfort and so much peace with God, even in the midst of confusion or grief. You can also get the support from your friends. You don't have to go through this alone. You don't have to be confused alone, especially with that one friend where you can talk about the same thing over and over and over again. You can sit with them and be like, damn, I really liked him, and I thought he liked me back, but he's not here. You know, whatever reason he had, it only matters that he's not here, and I just need to sit with it for a minute. I'm so sure that your friend would love to hold your hand and sit with you in you process it together. You don't have to do this alone. As for me, I think I'm still at the restaurant. Honestly, this journal entry, I feel like it definitely sped up the process of just accepting how things are. It opened my eyes to realize I don't want someone who comes back. I want someone who never leaves. So that makes me feel a little bit more happy or safe, or I guess more at ease with the idea that, oh, this person left, because he showed me that he's not what I want. I'm just gonna dwell in God's presence, and I'll be out of that restaurant whenever it's time, because I'm done pushing myself. I'm done rushing myself, because every time I rush myself, I feel guilty for not being ready. And if we're not ready, we're not ready. If we need more time to process things, we need more time to process things. There's nothing wrong with that. So if you're still at the restaurant, just know I'm there with you. I'm still at the restaurant as well. And it's okay if we take time to leave. It's okay even if it takes us time to accept the idea that we have to leave. No rush. And if this is something that happens to you often, I think it's not only that you really like this guy, I think we just have to practice that tolerance of ambiguity and sitting with uncomfortable emotions and learning to give ourselves time to process it. Because the thing is, thinking about it and talking about it isn't processing it. Because sometimes just thinking about it over and over and over again is what keeps you in the loop. Processing it is feeling it in your body, feeling the disappointment, feeling the grief in your body, and letting the emotion pass without you trying to verbalize it or without you trying to distract yourself with something else. Anyway, that's all I have for you guys today. Are you guys like completely in love with my layers? Because I'm completely in love with my layers. Thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate it. If you liked this message, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe.